Hello, hello, it's me again, and you are about to start your first project. Yes, your actual project. So we're going to be using design elements, design thought, color theory, hierarchy, symbolism, and iconography, and you guys are going to create a minimalist movie poster. Um, I'm going to be honest with you from the beginning. Minimalism is a little tricky. I know I've had students email me at the end of a course and say, "Man, I really got to get into like a little bit more into this to try to better understand it." Some people it clicks, but for a lot, it's really tricky, and even I struggle with it. And I just want to make that clear. Like, I know minimalism. It's just not always the easiest thing to choose. So let's go ahead. We're going to go over the assignment so you guys know what you're going to be doing. And then you guys can go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. All right. A minimalist poster. So these are actually really good examples of something that's more minimalism. And it's also a great example of typography, hierarchy, as well as symbolism and iconography. So one of the symbols of the United States is the Statue of Liberty, right? And right here in a smaller bit, it's the United States, because you should be able to recognize this very minimalist style symbol. And then they have larger New York, that's where it's at. Over here, this is Big Ben. It's a very old, very, very, very old clock. And it's in the United Kingdom, which is where England is, and it is actually located in London. So, very simple, recognizable piece. This, I forgot the name of this. This is from an ancient castle in Istanbul, which was once Constantinople. Fun fact in history, the Ottoman Empire took it over. Mehmet was the Sultan who actually did take and knock down the walls of Constantinople and took it over in Turkey. But this is one of the very old towers that still exists. I think it was around 30 AD that it still was around. And so, as you can see, these are just symbols used to make and create a very minimalistic design. So, we're going to talk about minimalism. Ba, ba, ba. So, what is minimalism or minimalist design? So, one thing I can tell you is this example here on the left is an amazing book. I highly recommend it. I love it. Bloodsucking Fiends is fantastic. I actually like Christopher Moore as an author. And so, what you'll see in this lesson overview is mostly just television and books. Because I don't want you guys to get ideas for movies, but I do want to show you the difference. So here we have, whoops, blood-sucking fiends. We don't really know what all this is about. There's apparently a couple of fish here. There's a coffin. Yeah, I don't know. Coffin could be death, right? But over here we have a label on a glass of red liquid. It says AB. Well, AB is a type of blood. It has two straws. So that's gonna tell me if someone's drinking blood, it's probably a vampire. And there's two straws, and you know who drinks out of two straws? People who like each other. And so, maybe that's what it is. And it is. It's actually a love story about two vampires. And so, this to me gives the message a much more clear than this. So, when we're looking at minimalism, there's a few things I want you all to pay attention to. And by a few, I mean pretty much these. The art of simplicity is basically what this is about. It's important to make clear that the key of minimalistic graphic design style is to keep things simple. Don't overthink it, not too much clutter, less is more. All right. This means that we will avoid using too many graphic elements. So if we look at this first cover, there's too many things here. I don't know what this is. All right. Function over visual. Minimalist design focuses on the fact that every element of your composition needs to have a purpose, and if not, then it doesn't need to be in your design. So why do we have these electrodes connected to a fish tank on top of I guess, a chest drawer? I don't know. So we don't need that. Why is there a coffin? Coffins have multiple representations. There's really no need to have it there. I don't know why do not disturb is there. It's a smart move. Don't need the alarm clock, and I'm not sure what the purple drink is there, or why there's a table. So like, really, I don't know what this is. It sounds like it's just about a vampire, right? Um, yeah. So by simplifying that, we can convey the story. It's actually about vampires, but it's a love story. Okay. Visual hierarchy. For minimalism, it's very important the visual hierarchy principles to organize the information and track the viewer's eye in the direction we want, being the first thing they see is the focal point. So, for example, if we look at this first one, Christopher Moore is the name that you see first, and then blood-sucking fiends. But over here, Moore and Fiends actually are about the same size, and Bloodsucking and Christopher are about the same size. So we want to tell you that this is Christopher Moore's Bloodsucking Fiends. I would actually reduce the text up here and make this a little bit bigger, but it is, and it actually in tiny text right here, which is not over here, it says Bloodsucking Fiends, a love story. Just want you guys to know. All right, simple typeface. We will look for a good readability font, avoiding oversaturated fonts. So we want to use fonts that are very clean, very straightforward, very simple, very easy to read. We do not want whimsical scripts, fancy looking fonts, anything like that. We're going to keep it very straightforward, okay? It's okay if they have their own kind of personalities, like the book on the right. The book on the left, these are just fine as well, okay? It's very common to see big and bold fonts in minimalist designs, especially for the headers. So that's kind of like what we talked about here. You're going to see it on some of the examples as we go forward. Now, limit the use of color. Too much color is a lot. It can become busy. It could also be that you have a pattern there. You don't need a pattern. Keep it simple. The key factor in choosing the right color scheme is to limit your palette to two principal colors. And in some cases, one accent color, maybe. So if we look over here, we do see that there's black and white, but there's green and there's red. So we're really black, green, and red's kind of our accent color. All right. And then remember, this is actually something that's super important. I want you all to tattoo, as one of my instructors said back in the day, I want you to tattoo it on the inside of your eyelids. Less is more. The less you put there, the more your message is going to get across, the more of it, okay? So we don't need a whole lot of stuff to distract the reader. We just want the reader to get the message, okay? We need to revise our design once it is finished and remove those elements which do not add any function to it. Keep this process going until you can't remove anything else. So until you get to the very minimal that it does not convey the design. All right, so let's talk about iconography and symbolism, because like we talked about in the previous slide, a glass with two straws generally means romance or friendship. And then having that label AB with a red liquid, that's blood. Immediately, I'm able to recognize that. So iconography is using recognizable symbols to represent ideas or characters. And then symbolism is simplifying complex concepts into visual metaphors. Focus on shapes and objects that are instantly tied to the movie, for example. A heart is love, peace, probably wartime, detective. This is going to be probably building things. We know this means cinematography. This is the Olympics. This is recycling. This is a like a compass. Oh, the name just escaped me. But anyways, they use it as a compass or nautical direction giving. So things have certain symbols that they mean. So if you have a movie where they're making, getting crazy phone calls, maybe the phone is the symbol. Think about Scream. Scream easily could have just been a phone call or a phone with a knife and a blood splatter. I just gave you an idea and don't use that. Okay. All right. The power of images over words. So this was a really great one, and I love showing this in class. And so you'll see that this nice big blue blob. So in minimalism, visuals replace text to tell the story. So use a single focal point to represent the movie. Let the audience infer or figure out the story without explicit details. For example, when you see this big blue blurb over here, it's a beehive hairstyle. This is absolutely iconic. Even I was young when The Simpsons came out. That's Marge Simpson. So we know right off the bat because her hair is iconic. It is a symbol of the character. So, hierarchy, this is where we tend to focus on certain things, making things bigger or smaller based on what maybe their focal point or what the emphasis is, or how we want the viewer to see things. So, this is organizing elements to guide the viewer's focus. Key principle, for example, is a focal point. This will be the most important symbol or image. And then supportive elements. These are small details that enhance that main idea or add, the general broad idea of what the movie is. Negative space plays a critical role in minimalist design. Now, what is negative space? Negative space is all the empty open space around. Positive space are actual things and objects. If you're not familiar with Dexter or familiar with season 6 of Dexter, I'm going to ruin it for you. I'm letting you know right now. So in this case, the focal point is actually this mobile, which is a baby mobile. They hang them over cribs. And so season 6 actually is the introduction of Dexter's son. Spoiler alert. And then for the supportive elements, we have the cleaver, the syringe, the saw, the scalpel, and the head because Dexter, he's a serial killer. Spoiler alert. And so we have these supporting because Dexter's a serial killer. He's concerned about his son. And then, of course, the blood splat, the huge blood flow in the background is because he's a serial killer. He, makes a mess. And so that's also your negative space as well. Okay. So Dexter, a few items he uses to kill, and the head of a victim shows he kills people. And the baby mobile represents his son in the season. Spoiler alerts. All right, so typography. So this is how we use font and how fonts can be used. So serif is traditional, formal, and it's professional. Sans serif is modern and clean. Decorative is a lot of the other stuff. So this is very thematic. Just keep it to a minimal. So minimal posters often use bold, simple type or rely on just the movie name as the tagline. Here we have Breaking Bad, the TV series. So respect the chemistry and then Breaking Bad. Now, here's the hierarchy. We see this as smaller than Breaking Bad because Breaking Bad is the one that we want you to remember. That's the name of the show. This is just the concept of the show. And so if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, spoiler alert. All right, so it's basically about making drugs, so there's chemistry involved, and then guns. So they have the guns, and they use part of the guns to actually create. It's not a beaker, but it's like a bulb beaker or something. Anyways, to make the flask. I think it's actually what it's called. So using the font, it's thematic. So this is more decorative styled. It's simple, and modern. So it's the sans serif. And then Breaking Bad is the bigger part, which falls into the hierarchy, respect the chemistry. Then we have our imagery. Color theory. So color is a huge factor for everything you do in design. I highly recommend that you actually go online and look up colors and find out the color theory about things. But I did put some basics here for you. And just so you can look at this if you want, but it's a good idea to go and search up, what colors mean what in reference to whatever you're doing. So green, it's a positive. It's definitely with nature. Bright, sunny, and luminous is yellow. Red is passionate, exciting, and action. Red is the first color the brain recognizes. That's why we have stop signs and red lights. Black, gray, and white are called neutral colors, but they do have meanings and how they're used. Okay. Royalty for purple, calm and peace is blue. So keep in mind, warm colors, they are passion and excitement. Cool colors are calm and mysterious. And neutrals, simplicity and sophistication. All right, so be aware of that. All right, so this is the job. So again, Christopher Moore, Love Simplicity. You Suck, a love story. This is the second book in that series. It's a vampire trilogy. And this is actually a really beautifully done cover. It's very clean, very minimalist, right? You Suck is the biggest part. So this is the title you're getting. They're using red to grab your attention. And then you have Christopher Moore down here as well, maintaining the font style. They only switched it once, but they kept a sans serif style. Okay. So this is what your job is. You've been hired by a movie studio to create a movie poster. They want to create a unique teaser. So this is not where you're going to give everything away. This is just to introduce something about the movie. And they want you to use a minimalist approach. Okay. This is the third book in the series called Bite Me. So notice the simplicity of a lot of it. So your instructions. So you're going to need to look up some original movie posters. I want you to pick a movie. Just pick a movie. All right. Then you're going to look up the poster. That's going to be your inspiration. So what is the movie? What is your inspiration? Then you're going to use the Illustrator tools, the menus, the palettes, and everything, and you're going to create the minimalist poster with the least amount of elements possible so that it still communicates the movie clearly to the audience. Now, the reason that I use television shows in these book covers is because I don't want to show you anything and give you an idea. So when you give me your ideas for a movie, I'm going to immediately go look and see if you stole that idea. It's called plagiarism, and you cannot do that. The moment you turn something in like that, it is a zero, and I will not accept a replacement for it. That is straight up illegal, okay? There's even lawsuits going on right now. Chick-fil-A is, no, Buc-ee's is suing another place because they think their logo looks similar. I don't think it does. But Chick-fil-A is suing someone because they did some advertising and they use lettering that looks very similar to what they use in their advertising. So they're a little cautious about that. And it actually may work in Chick-fil-A's favor. So you got to be really careful about this. Now, I don't want you to copy someone else's business, but you could go online just to look at examples. It's one of the first things I do. If someone says I want a movie poster and I'm looking for a very simple, clean design, I'm going to go look up minimalist and I'm going to look up other examples and just get an idea. Okay. So, your sketches and ideas, all right, you are going to have to sketch out some ideas. Everything must be an original drawing of yours. Yes, you have to draw it. No, you cannot draw it digitally. I want you to use a pen and paper because you may not always be around some like your iPad or whatever, any tablets, anything you can draw with. You may be on the road. Your battery may be dead. Let's look at how you can use things like common things like pencils, pens, papers, things like that. Be inspired, don't copy. It's okay if you see something and you're like, dang, I really like that design. How can you change it and make it yours? Make it yours. Don't copy. All right. You need to have three different poster ideas. That's three different sketches. Now, you could do three different sketches of one movie. You could do one sketch of three different movies or any variation thereof. I just want you to have three different ideas that come about. All right. Now, put some work into it. You'll be graded on the difficulty on a difficulty rating based on your illustration technique and attention to detail as well as your creativity. I'm talking about your design idea. You're going to be graded on the originality of it. Does it convey the movie message that you're trying to? Like, does it actually talk about the movie or give something about the movie, tease about the movie? Does it do it in a simplistic way? Did you put too much stuff in there? Does it have like fonts? If you're using fonts, did you use good fonts? Too many fonts? Did you use a proper, font that works for everything? This is the stuff that you're going to be graded on, okay? So again, go and look up examples and get ideas. The image size for your project is going to be, and this is an actual movie poster size. It's 27 inches wide and 40 inches long. Okay? Read. I had someone try to do it sideways. That's called landscape. No, I need portrait, okay? You're going to save your completed graphics. So once you do your sketches and we're like, hey, I'm using this one. Okay. And I give you some like direction to it. You're going to create it. And then you're going to save your completed graphic. Label it with your first initial, your last name, and then min poster. Give you an example. And then save it. And submit the Illustrator file. And then submit the original poster if you can. I really just want to make sure I'm seeing what the original movie was. So again, it's not just about, if it's called vampires. Well, don't just put a vampire there. Like give me something a visual that kind of tells you what the story is about or what something that's going on in the film, okay? So that's that. Here's some examples of good television pieces. So the blacklist, it has a bunch of names and they're all crossed out because what do you do with a list? You cross things out on your list, right? Dexter, well, again, spoiler alert. Dexter actually likes to keep a little blood sample of each one of his kills. So that's what this is a representative of. Mad Men, white background. Smoking is heavy in that series, but they're professionally drawn. Sorry, professionally dressed. So they use shadows to create the shirt collar, and then they have a tie. Then you have How to Get Away with Murder. Well, this is Lady Justice. She has the scales of justice, and so that's the symbolism there. Then there's the blood splatter because that's not graffiti. It's somebody's blood getting splattered on a piece of paper. And then we have The Simpsons, and they just used a whole bunch of quotes of his, and it really creates and fills in the silhouette of Homer. Okay, and these are all his sayings. So while the Blacklist and The Simpsons don't seem like minimalism, they kind of are in their own way. How to Get Away with Murder has a bit going on with it, but it's still pretty simplistic. There's two symbols there that tell you about the show. Mad Men, it's about men in suits smoking. That's pretty much what it's not just about that, but it's a lot of focusing on advertising. It's a really good series. And it is actually about advertising. Dexter, this is pure, unadulterated simplicity. Okay. All right, guys. So that is it. That's going to be your assignment. That's the lesson. I want you all to start with the sketches. So go out, look up some examples of minimalist movie posters, get some ideas, pick a movie. You can actually use AI to help you with this. So you could go in and say, you know what? Let's use the Avengers. Hey, actually, let's not do the Avengers. Let's choose something different. I want to use the movie Spawn. So I'm going to go in there and say, hey, I think it's 1994. I want to use this picture, the movie Spawn. And tell it, I need to create a minimalist movie poster for my class assignment. You can even download this lesson, not the video, the lesson, and attach that PowerPoint to your chat, AI, whatever. I use Chat GPT. You can attach it, tell it what you're doing, and then say, can you give me five symbols that represent things that happen in the movie? And it will just tell you what they are. Now, you didn't cheat. You told it to give you some suggestions. And so now you're going to pull one of those suggestions and you're going to do the work. Okay. It's not uncommon. We do teach you guys how to use AI properly. It is a tool, not a crutch. It will not do the work for you. So get the brain gears turning. But you guys, please get started. If you have any questions, let me know. If you get stuck, you can reach out to me. I'm probably going to tell you, hey, you should probably go ask AI, give you a head start or give you a leg up, just kind of give you some tips or input. It can get you started. It will help you cross the finish line, but it will not run the race for you. Okay. All right, guys, go ahead and get started. Good luck to you, and I'll see you in the